This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's going on, Real MVPs? Brandon Swanson here, and across the table, it is Ricky Widmer. And before we really get into what we're going to talk about, I'm going to allow about a 2-minute segment for Ricky to just, I guess, put out his feelings about the Chicago Cubs. Because what we're doing here is we've had some requests for doing this. We're going to take a look, not series by series, but just an overall look, and then we'll give you our thoughts at the very end of what we think is going to happen, our picks all the way up to the World Series and a World Series winner, because my World Series winner certainly isn't in it because I'm a dummy. But Ricky, the floor is yours.
Well, first off, what's up, everybody? The first thing I want to say is not about the Cubs. I think the only team I was off on this year was the Twins. I think every other team, and the Braves, because I had the Nationals in the playoffs as well. Other than that, I felt pretty good. Maybe the D-backs. I had the D-backs and not the Rockies, so a few more teams. What the hell was going on yesterday, Brandon? Like, I watched the entire Cub game, and I get it. The Brewers are a good team. Like, you asked me throughout the entire season, are you worried about the Brewers? And honestly, I was not worried about the Brewers until effing yesterday. Yesterday, I was super. Why did the Marlins trade Christian Yelich? That's what I was thinking. I was like, why can't he just be on the Marlins again? Lorenzo Cain didn't really kill us. You know what did kill us? Aguilar. Aguilar killed us. What was he, like 4 for 4? Every single time. Leadoff. Oh, I'm going to get on base. Here's going to be the pitcher.
That was Arcia.
Oh, my God. And all the names are running together because, okay, here's the...
Whoa. What are you trying to say?
All the names are running together in my head. Here's 2 points that I have and just 2 things I want to say. One, I completely agree with a tweet I saw last night. It was a quoted tweet from Jesse Rogers, Cubs beat writer for ESPN. Someone had tweeted out that it was another poorly managed game by Joe Maddon. I am going to repeat the remarks of Jesse Rogers, delete your account, because yesterday's game had nothing to do with Joe Maddon poorly managing anything. He did exactly, with me, I had no problems with how he managed yesterday's game. What I did have a problem with, and I get, this is the love and the hate with Javi Baez. There was a point in this game, I want to say it was in like the 6th or 7th inning. Cubs have 2 on, 1 out. No, 2 on, 2 out. Javi Baez is at the plate. It is a 3-1 count. He strikes out swinging at what would have been ball 4. You get ball 4. Anthony Rizzo then comes to the plate. You have the Brewers bullpen, which the entire game, that's all the ESPN announcers talked about is how strong this bullpen is. And we actually had them on their heels for a little bit. But because he was swinging at anything, and I get the aggressiveness from Javi Baez. That's what you love about Javi. That's why I love Javi. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, it's not great. But that, to me, was the key moment in this game. The Cubs had 2 on, would have loaded the bases with Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo would have batted something in. I'm saying Cubs would have won like 3-2 or even 4-3 if they would have cashed in that inning. My rant is over. We got to win tonight. Lester on the mound. Hopefully the bats come alive. And the Cubs will play the Brewers, and we will get a grudge match in Milwaukee starting Thursday, I think. Thursday it'll start. So let's hope we win tonight against the Rockies. But my rant is over.
Well, I first want to say, you said that you weren't worried about the Brewers until yesterday. Mm-hmm. Well, you should have been a lot more worried about the Brewers probably about 2 weeks before yesterday, because the Brewers, while the Cubs thought they had it in the bag, the Brewers were making sure that the Cubs didn't have it in the bag and were having one heck of a September. So the Cubs had a, 5-6 game lead with a week to go, a little over a week to go. I mean, please tell me, how do you blow that? I mean, I think I could probably tell you too, because the White Sox did the same thing. With the White Sox did the same thing with one game.
One game would have won us the division.
The White Sox did the same thing against the Tigers. What was it, a couple of years back? I put it out of my memory. It's a very sad day. But I think that the Chicago Cubs, it was theirs to win, and they blew it. And they put themselves obviously in this position, and it's come down to a very difficult game tonight. And I know that a lot of Cub fans and a lot of baseball fans will probably see this game as a game that the Cubs should be able to win. But this is what I will say, is that both offenses are both very good. It is all going to come down to the pitching matchup. While Lester is good, Freeland has been outstanding for this Rocky team this year. 17-7 record. But he's been solid.
But I heard today that his ERA against the Cubs this year is like double of what it usually is on the road. So I mean,
throw those. I guess you can throw those stats. We can throw all those stats away. Why are we even talking stats? It's coming down to a one game wild card. Throw everything else out the window because it only matters about one game.
For the Cubs today, and I guess we'll talk about the wild card first because that's what's on the mind. Is it's tonight as we're recording this podcast. The bat's got to come alive. I don't mean to be John Madden here, but you can't effing win baseball games if you don't put runs on the board. Boom. Like, that's plain and simple.
Can you not?
I mean, the thing with me, what I look at in this wild card game and why I would favor the Cubs right now is another thing you got to think about when it comes to the Rockies is this is a Rockies team that if you look at their scheduling and where they have been so far, so this is a team that was in, basically, they had to win on Sunday, which they did easily. Both the Dodgers and the Rockies won easily on Sunday to force their play-in game or their tiebreaker game. They were in Colorado. Then they flew over to LA for the tiebreaker game. Now in a third straight game, they have to fly all the way from LA to Chicago to play a wild card game. Whereas the Cubs, first off, they're not traveling anywhere because yesterday they were at Wrigley. Today they're going to be at Wrigley. But even before that, the Cubs have been home since September 24th. The team has not had to travel. That is, to me, a plus for this team. We have our ace going, which the Rockies, I'm going to say, had to blow yesterday. They blew their best pitcher to try to win the tiebreaker game. The Dodgers still won that game. Like, I saw the ERA, and I know what you're saying. Stats are useless in the postseason, but technically the tiebreaker wasn't a postseason game. But he was phenomenal against the Dodgers. Dodgers still easily won that game, which you could say, well, that's what I'm saying, Ricky. Throw stats out the window. It's just everything for the Cubs. I'm not saying they're going to for sure win. I hope they win because I don't want to get bounced in the wild card game. If I lose, I want to at least lose in a series. But everything favors the Cubs. It's just, will our bats come up tonight against the Rockies? Because everything else favors us to try to win this game. And the key game that I will go back to, last thing I'll say about the Cubs, the key game to me was, I think it was, no, that one was in Wrigley. This one was far back where we were in Milwaukee for a series. It was September 3rd. We were 5 games up on the Brewers. And Anthony Rizzo came up in I think it was the 8th inning. And we didn't cash in. We ended up losing 4-3 in that one. If we would have won that game, or no, Rizzo homered in the 8th, which gave us a 3-2 win. The bullpen blew it, which don't even get me started on our bullpen woes right now. But we blew it in the 8th and the 9th, and if we would have had that one, we would have won the division. But you can't go woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's a one-game wild card tonight. Cubs bats, they just got to come to play.
Let's look at the other wild card game. Let's look at the AL. And it's Oakland and it's New York. And I have to just give so much credit to the Oakland A's for what they ended up doing this season. And they were not around for the most part. It didn't seem certainly early on they really weren't around. And at the All-Star break, it really didn't. They didn't really come out as a front runner for the playoffs. Not really in my mind. But then it's after the All-Star break. And they go on this streak. They were outstanding. They went past Seattle, and Seattle was looking at the team as though they could maybe run up and get Houston for the spot in the West. That doesn't happen. And then Seattle falls back, and Oakland just stays on this hot streak the rest of the season. So I'm very excited to see the Oakland Athletics playing the New York Yankees in the wild card. I would personally love to see the Oakland A's beat the Yankees in the one wild card game and send New York home and say, nice one, New York. Good season, so long. That'd be nice. I would love to see that. But here's what it comes down to in my mind. They have Hendricks going against Severino. How is Severino going to pitch? Which Severino are we going to see? Are we going to see the guy who comes out and just absolutely locks down from the first inning? Well, maybe you can get him for 1 or 2 in the first inning and then he's good to go. Or is he going to be like the Severino who, gosh, I can't remember the series. It was against Oakland in Oakland that he was pitching, and he couldn't get
September 5th. He
couldn't
lasted
get
2
anybody out.
2/3 innings.
Couldn't get anybody out. It was hit after hit after hit after hit, run. I mean, I think they put up 3 or 4 on him early. And the A's ended up winning that ball game. Which guy are we going to see? Because that's what it hinges on. Severino, when he is good, he's their best pitcher. He is one of the best pitchers in the league. But when he's bad, it's get him out of there. Get him out of there quick because he is struggling, and he has struggled to then his mechanics within the game, and it's tough. I get it. It's not necessarily similar, but with golf, if you're having a bad day golfing, it's really tough to fix things on the course. It's tough to fix things in the game. So it's going to be really interesting because I think even with the Yankees and all of their power and all of their young studs who bring such hot bats, I think Oakland just as much. They may not have the big hot names, but they certainly have the big hot bats.
I am going to put, if I had to put my money on it, I'm putting my money on it that Severino has a good game tomorrow. And the reason why I say that is he is right now, after his last 2 starts, on a little bit of a hot streak. And you got to look at who those teams were. He went 7 innings of only giving up 1 run against the Red Sox. Like the unbeatable Red Sox. This team punched their ticket to the wild card. That's what I feel like the Red Sox have been most of the season, what everyone's been talking about. They're going to make the best team in the AL punch their ticket to the World Series. They're going to go and represent the AL, where, yet again, they win 10-1. The offense was there for them. Then against Tampa Bay, in a series where the Yankees said, oh, that's cute. You want to play us in the wild card game? And your postseason hopes are over. Here's the Athletics. We'd rather play them. Where he went 5 innings, gave up only 2 runs in that one, struck out 7 and 6 in his last 2. The other thing I'm thinking is Severino's got to be thinking about last year. He's got to be thinking about last year. They trot him out for a wild card game that they won against the Twins because in history, the Twins can never beat the Yankees when it comes to the wild card. He didn't even get out of the first inning in that one. Gave up 3 runs in that first inning. They pull him after only getting 1 out. He's got to be thinking about that. He's got to be like, you know what? I'm on a hot streak. I can't do what I have to make up for my woe last season. And I think he comes out in this wild card game, pitches well, and I actually like the Yankees with their offense, with everything they added this year to beat the Athletics. Closer game. I'm not going to say it's going to be a 10-1 blowout, but I could see like a 5-3 game or maybe a 7-4 game with the Yankees on top going into a series against the Boston Red Sox.
Luis Severino, in his 4 postseason starts, has pitched just a total of 16 innings. 4 starts, 16 innings, 1-1, ERA, over 5. Over 5. Luis Severino has not been good in the postseason, and I'm not saying that you can't redeem yourself. But this is a guy he's really going to have to come out and be on his game and mentally, knowing that, hey, this is the big stage again. This is one game. They've given it to me. I'm the ace, and he is. But he's going to have to prove to himself that he can do it. Because if he himself believes that he can go out there and do it, then he will. And, you know, the numbers certainly aren't good, and you can change that all tonight. Tomorrow night, but or I guess it would be tonight when the video goes out. But on Wednesday night, Luis Severino has a chance to change that, to possibly go to 2-1, to lower that postseason ERA. Will he do it? It's been a bit of a struggle for him against the Athletics lately. Towards the end of the season, he saw them and didn't have the greatest of outings. Does he get it back in this game? And time will tell. But I want to move on to the we'll keep it here in the AL and go to the Cleveland-Houston series. Just a quick couple of thoughts on what you think there, because these are two teams. Cleveland easily won the Central. Houston, it was a bit interesting in the West for a little while, but two teams, they're here again. What are you thinking?
Well, quickly before I do answer that, one last thing about Severino.
Sure.
He knows he can pitch as well. Like, he knows he can pitch well. The game against Cleveland last year, 7 innings, struck out 9. They got the 7-3 victory. The thing I will say about his 2 losses, though, the Astros were red hot. The Astros were phenomenal in that series, and that's why they won the World Series. Cleveland and Houston, I don't really know who to pick in this one. Like, that's my thought from this, because I'm kind of banking on the Yankees to win their series, so I'm hoping we get a great slugfest, like a great matchup rivalry between the Red Sox and the Yankees. But like the Indians were the team that 2 years ago were this close. This close. They tasted the World Series. Like, they literally, it was almost like, I can't remember which series it was exactly. I think it was the Bill Buckner World Series, where it's basically, we got the champagne, we got the locker room all go, oh wait, the ball went between his legs, get everything out of here. We got to get everything out of here. Go, go, go. Like, that's almost what it was that's what it was for the Indians in 2016. And luckily, I'm happy about that because my Cubs won, but they're a team that tasted it. They're a team that, I'll be honest, probably should be 2016 World Series champions, but the ball just didn't bounce that way, and the rain didn't hold up quite long enough for them.
They shouldn't be. The Cubs won it fair and square.
I get, yes, the Cubs won it fair and square, but I do know with the Cubs, I'm not going to be the first Cub fan to tell you that luck was on our side that year. Like, we needed a little bit of luck.
What do you think half of sports is? You think they're all that good?
I know. I'm not saying
it's a lot of it.
I'm just saying, like, I know we got lucky that year, but we also did have a great team, so it's not like we completely relied on it. Not my point, though. My point is, they are hungry. The thing is, the Astros are the defending champs. They got the bullet on their back. I like the Astros in this one because although I like the bullpen a little bit better for the Indians, I like the overall roster and the overall starters for the Astros better than I do for the Indians. It's just, can the Astros have that same hunger that they had last year before they won the World Series?
Yeah, I've got to give. I'm going to give the slight edge to Cleveland in terms of pitching, but I'm going to give the edge to Houston in terms of their hitters. I think that Houston, they're up and down their lineup. It is really difficult. You look at that lineup and you go, do we have to play them? Because they're just that good, and their pitchers are good. Justin Verlander is good. Garrett Cole is good. Dallas Keuchel, that's where I start to question. It's like, Dallas, what Dallas Keuchel are we going to get? Are we going to get the Dallas Keuchel of, what was it, last year? Or are we going to get the Dallas Keuchel of, oh, he's really not pitching well? You know, I mean, that's kind of where that's at. And for Cleveland, I mean, you've got Carrasco and you've got Kluber. You've got two guys right up there at the top. You got Trevor Bauer. They're starters, really, for the most part. You look at them and you go, I think they're going to probably be able to go pretty deep into games. Certainly at least give 5 innings, you would think. But at the same time, that's if you're just looking at the starters. But if you're looking at the starters going against Houston's lineup, then that's a different story. I'm not going to say just yet who I'm going to go with because I want to make it a surprise at the end. Like it's really a surprise, but I think it's going to be a really good series. I'm not going to say it's going to be one of the best ones that we see because if the Yankees play Boston, that will be the best series. I mean, without a doubt, you'd like to believe that will be the best one, but I think that this Cleveland-Houston one will be good. It's Houston fighting again, trying to defend their crown, and it's the Cleveland Indians trying to get back and get their crown. So it's going to be a really interesting series. Then you've got Boston. I mean, whoever they take on, it's going to be interesting. The Boston Red Sox have been such a great team all season long. They're just loaded. I mean, they're just loaded, Ricky. You look at them and you think, I remember when my dad and I, I think it was either a birthday present or a Father's Day present, we went to the Red Sox White Sox game when they were at, I was going to say U.S. Cellular Field, but when they were at...
That's what I call it.
Okay. When they were at the...
Or I call it Comiskey.
When they were at the Cell/Comiskey, not this new garbage they've got going on. But I'm looking at Boston's starting lineup and all of their averages, and I turn to my dad and I go, how in the hell did they lose this season? How did they lose a game? I mean, they're that good.
Yeah.
I mean, one of their worst averages was like 260 something. I would have killed to have the White Sox have one of their best averages at 260 something. So Boston has just been that team that is so dominant, so good. Their starting rotation has been outstanding. Their bullpen, if you get to Craig Kimbrell, just turn the lights off. You're done. Craig Kimbrell is so dominant. He is so good. He's been outstanding. Boston, they just, for whoever they'll take on, they look good. However, towards the end of the season, at the end of the season, when they played the Yankees, Boston didn't look so good. And that's where I'm kind of turning to. Boston's not coming into this hot. If you look at their overall season, the Red Sox would be the team that you think would run away with this entire series. Everybody. But the way Boston played at the end, they weren't convincing. They were not convincing. And it's the team that goes in hot that you have to be worried about. Not to say that you shouldn't still worry about Boston, but they weren't hot to end the year.
Well, and that's why for me, I have 3 teams that I wouldn't want to play this year. And for my Cubs, it sucks because we'll probably have to play both of them if we want to win the World Series. The AL side, it's the Yankees. Like, if I'm a Boston fan, if I am a Red Sox fan, I am rooting for the A's tonight as this podcast goes up. But as a baseball fan, not a Red Sox fan, I'm rooting for the Yankees. I want to see a great Yankee-Red Sox series in the playoffs, although Yankee and Red Sox fans will have a heart attack when that series is over with. The other 2 teams are in the NL. The first one is the team that won convincingly, where MLB, I saw a tweet today, MLB posted a tweet back in like April where David Roberts said, don't worry, when the season's done and over, the Dodgers will be atop the West. And the Dodgers Twitter account quoted that tweet and said, Doc was not wrong. Basically, it's like they won in convincing fashion yesterday at home. And they're a team, I said at the beginning of the season, I'll say it now, I don't want to play them. And I was saying that before they got Manny Machado. Like, that guy's insane. He made a play yesterday where off the glove hand, hit the glove, hit his elbow, caught it in his bare hand, flipped it over to second, and Kike just could not make the turn to throw it to first. Could have had a double play, but at least got the out at second. The other one's the team that beat my team yesterday. The Brewers are red hot coming into this playoffs. And the thing that both these 2 teams have that my Cubs do not because of injuries is bullpen. And that's why I feel like in the NL, you're going to have, like, the Dodgers and the Brewers are the teams to beat, obviously. And for me, the Yankees are one of the hottest teams in the AL coming in right now, where I just feel like those 3 teams, if you asked me to put World Series odds on, I'd put Yankees at 1. I'm going to put Dodgers at 2, Brewers at 3 for odds to win the World Series, because those 3 teams are just coming in so hot into this postseason.
Ricky, let's run over into the National League and finish that up. Let's first go with the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers beating the Rockies yesterday won the West, so they moved on to be in the NLDS against Atlanta. Atlanta, a team that, where did they come from? Where did they come from? If anything, I think people thought, maybe the Phillies would be better this year. Most people, me being very much one of them, thought that this was going to be the year for the Washington Nationals. Things were going to stack up in their favor. They were not going to have the injuries. Their bullpen was going to be good because they had gotten a number of guys last year. They were still there this year. I mean, Bryce Harper, in the last year of his contract, he's most likely going to be gone at the end of the season. Everything was looking like this was going to be the year for the Washington Nationals, and it couldn't have been farther from the truth. And the Phillies were much better this year. They were a lot for a good part of the year. I think people thought the Phillies might win the East. And then the Atlanta Braves, they just storm out of the gate and they rise to the top. They didn't storm out of the gate the way that the Mets did, but in Mets fashion, they also stormed back into the gate later on in the season. But the Atlanta Braves just absolutely ran away with that one and did so in convincing fashion. If I'm the Dodgers right now, Ricky, I'm a little nervous.
I'm not. I
am.
Like, for me, the Braves, and I'm going to give them all the credit in the world. I had the Nationals winning this division at the beginning of the year. If I had a hat, I would tip it to the Braves because they've played a great season. Like I said, though, this Dodger team, they won convincingly in that tiebreaker game. Didn't even use Kershaw.
5-2?
But it was like 5-0 for most of it.
I know, 5-2 doesn't convince me big time. If they won 10-0, that's convincingly. 5-2 at the end of the day is not a convincing.
It was 5-0 until the top of the ninth. Like, to me, they had that game in the like, as soon as the sixth inning was, like, when they're up 5-0 going into the seventh, all right, this game's over. Like, good luck scoring 6 times against that bullpen. Like, the Rockies scored twice, and it's like, oh, cool. They got 2, but it was like a battle to try to get those 2. I think this series is going to be one where if I'm a Braves fan, I'm going, Jesus, why couldn't we have drawn the Cubs in the first round? Like, because that's the team that's the walking wounded right now in my mind, because our bullpen is decrepit. Our offense, the bats just don't seem like, on Intentional Talk today, they were making jokes about like, it was either High Noon or Intentional Talk, probably Intentional Talk. They were making like golf warming jokes of like, got to bring the golf warmers over, got to put them on the bat. It was on the score. It was Danny Parkins that made that joke. Got to put the golf warmers on the bats, kind of warm those bats up a little bit so that they get that fire going for them. And it's like, if I'm the Braves, there's 2 teams I did not want to see. The Dodgers and the Brewers, and odds are you were going to see one of them. I think this is a series where, I'm going to be honest, I'd put my money on a 3-game sweep for the Dodgers, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves got one. I think this one ends with a Dodger victory in 3 or 4.
See, Ricky, I think the Dodgers, their bells, their whistles, they're nice. They've got a lot of great pieces, a lot of big-name pieces, and I think the Dodgers are a really good team. But the Atlanta Braves are a scrappy team, and that is the type of team you do not want to play. You do not want to play that scrappy team, that fighting team, that team that, maybe they're down 3 in the 7th inning, but they're not out. I mean, they're not. So I think that's what Atlanta has showed throughout the year, which is why that they're in the position that they're in right now in the playoffs. So if you're the Dodgers, you cannot take this lightly. You cannot go and say, okay, we've got the Atlanta Braves. We've got the upper hand on them. We should be able to breeze right through there. And I know that you're giving me that face of, oh, no, I don't think that.
They're not going to think that for sure.
But the Dodgers?
Yeah, they're not going to come into the series thinking, we got this in the bag. They're going to take it seriously.
You would have fooled me yesterday with Yasiel Puig, the way that he was celebrating, saying that pretty much they were. I mean,
perfect example. The guy that everyone has said is probably one of the most unprofessional baseball players.
And I love confidence. I love his confidence. But at the same time, it's like, all right, bro, that's good, but you should probably, just kind of pump the brakes a little bit because you do have many games to play that will probably serve plenty of adversity in some way or another. They always do. That's why postseason baseball is amazing. But, Ricky, finally, moving over to the Milwaukee Brewers. We've already kind of touched on them. They're hot as can be.
They are. And the thing about the Brewers is, I mean, the Cubs needed, I'm going to bring the Cubs back in because I think that it's going to be Cubs and Brewers in the NLDS. The Cubs needed home field. Like, I could see a Cubs-Brewers matchup going down to 5 and the deciding factor being that last game is in Milwaukee, although it really doesn't matter because the two are so close to each other that both fans travel so well to both of them. I just feel like right now the Brewers they're a team that's hot, so I feel like I'm going to give them a good chance to probably get out of the NLDS, but I think that in the NLCS, their inexperience is going to come out, and a team like the Dodgers might be able to beat them. Like, that's the only thing that I think can run into the Brewers' way, because we almost saw a crack yesterday. Like I said, the announcers, which first off, by the way, ESPN, faux pas on you. How do you have David Ross calling a baseball game and you give him the Dodgers and the Rockies and don't even send him to Chicago? Like, come on.
I think because of maybe they thought that there would be a conflict of interest there with him calling that game. I
get that part, but part of me is also like, you're supposed to be a professional. It's not like, oh, Crucky, you can never call a Phillies game because you used to play for the Phillies. I just saw that and was like, that's the perfect game for David Ross to be a color guy on. Plus, he's the ultimate professional, and I just would have loved having him on there.
I am not disputing that at all.
Not saying that the crew that was on the Cub Brewer game was garbage. I just would have liked to hear Grandpa Ross's voice kind of soothing me during that loss.
Of course.
I just feel like the Brewers, their biggest their biggest weakness is going to be their inexperience, and them and the Braves I put in the same boat of their teams where it's like, watch out for them next year after they get some playoff experience. The Brewers more so than the Braves, because the Brewers to me have, I don't want to say better talent, but they have better talent in Lorenzo Cain and an MVP candidate in Christian Yelich.
Well, the Dodgers sure had a lot of experience last season, and Houston was pretty inexperienced. So your point can be thrown into the garbage right there. And I'm not trying to be a jerk and tell you that your point is garbage, but basically it falls down.
Yeah,
your argument falls down there.
You can make that argument for the Brewers. You can't make that argument for the Braves in my mind. Like, if you're going to bring up the Astros from last year, I'll say, all right, point taken. That's why maybe the Brewers can give the Dodgers or even the Cubs a run for their money because they're on a hot streak right now.
All right, Ricky, let's do it. Let's do this. We don't necessarily need to go that they'll win in 3 or they'll win in that. Let's just kind of go through it straight up. Who do we think that is we'll say for both of us who we think we will win? Let's start with the National League, and then we'll do who we think will get to the World Series, and we'll go to the American League, who we think will get to the World Series, and then who we think will win. Ricky, I'll start with you.
What's funny is I was 3 teams off. Rockies, Braves, A's. Every other team I had in the playoffs. The only one I can't remember. Do you remember if I had the Indians or the Astros?
Ricky, honestly, I can't remember who even I had. I do know that one of my wild card teams that I said, I'm saying this because I think it's funny how dumb I am.
Twins.
I had the Baltimore Orioles. I thought, I'll go out on a limb here.
They won't trade Manny Machado.
Could I have been any more wrong? So please, I hope you're having a good laugh and going, wow, what an idiot. Just don't type it, okay? I already get it. I get it.
I'll start in the NL. The one that's going on as we're going to be recording this is Cubs and Rockies. I'm going to say Cubs win at home. We'll play the Milwaukee Brewers. Then I'm going to go Dodgers over the Braves is the only one I'm saying in 3. I think that the Dodgers are going to sweep the Braves, but the Braves kind of make it a tough 3-game series. Although the Brewers are on a hot streak right now, I can't do it. I just can't. As a Cub fan, I can't. So I get it. Say it down below. I'm going to take the Cubs over the Brewers in the DS. The thing I'll say about the Cubs is I feel like even though they're bullpen woes, they have enough to get through an NLDS, maybe not enough to get through an NLCS. and then Dodgers, Cubs in the NLCS. Then the road to the playoffs would go through LA. I'm going to have the Dodgers go to the World Series in the NL. Do you want me to give, are you going to give your NL? Do you want me to go right into the AL?
I'll give my NL too. I have the Cubs beating Colorado really for no other reason than the Cubs are at home and they're going to be really upset about yesterday, as will Colorado, but the Cubs losing at home yesterday, I think that proves to be a little bit more in their favor for tonight. So I think that the Chicago Cubs get the win there over with the Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves. I like the Braves. I think that because of the Dodgers have everything. They have everything. They have the pitching. They have the hitting. They have the big names. The Atlanta Braves, they just go about their business and get it done and do it well, and they do have some style. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves there to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then on the other side, I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers. I just think that the Brewers, right now, they're too good, and their bullpen is... I maybe am going a little too far on this one, but I think their bullpen is leaps away from where the Chicago Cubs are right now. Especially the injuries have hurt the Chicago Cubs with their bullpen, but that's what the Cubs are working with. So Milwaukee leaps and bounds away. In Milwaukee, you're welcome from the Chicago White Sox. You have at least 2 or 3 of their pitchers that they started off with earlier this year, Cedeno and then Joaquin Soria.
I was going to say, didn't you guys have Soria and gave him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just said, Milwaukee, who else you want? Anyone else? We got a couple.
Let's be honest. I don't think Soria. I think Soria was one of the pitchers that didn't pitch well yesterday against the Cubs, but
he ended up getting the job done.
Yeah.
So I've got the Cubs. I've got the Atlanta Braves, I've got the Milwaukee Brewers, and then the NLCS, I've got the Milwaukee Brewers winning. Milwaukee's going to the World Series. Ricky, over to the AL.
Yeah, AL starting the wild card. Yankees going to win 7-3 over the Oakland A's. I think Severino goes 7 innings, strikes out 8. He's going to have a dominant performance. That offense is going to come alive. They're going to roll right into the ALDS. Nothing against the A's. I just think the Yankees are on a hot streak. I'm going to say that Houston beats the Indians. I can't remember who I originally had winning this one, so I'm going to go with the defending champs to move on. Yankees and Boston. I'm going to go on the hot streak. I'm going to say Yankees get by Boston in 7, winning in Fenway. And then the big one, Yankees-Astros again in the AL, with rematches of ALCS and NLCSs all over the place. Yankees get the job done this time against the Houston Astros, and then I'll have my World Series of Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series.
Wow. What a typical World Series.
That's the one I had at the beginning of the year, so I have to go with it, right?
Sure. Sure. Well, and because you had it, it means it will not work out that way. So you'll be wrong on one side, I hope. So with the AL wild card, this is going to be a very good game. I don't think that either team will run away with this. I think that we're going to see a final of 4-2, and I think it's going to be the Oakland A's. I think the Oakland A's are going to jump up and get the New York Yankees. It's been a really good season for New York, but the Oakland A's, you talk about another pretty hot team. Oakland has been really hot this second half of the season, and I think they're going into this feeling pretty good as well. Not that the Yankees are not, but I'm going to go with Oakland. One game, it's really tough when it comes down to one game. Always is, but I'm going to go with the Oakland A's to be playing against the Boston Red Sox. I'm going to go with the Red Sox to win there. I think that Boston's got too much. And then on the other side, Houston, I'm going to go with Houston. I already mentioned their offense. I don't think, even with Cleveland being as good as they are, you can't hold down every hitter in that lineup. Certainly not for every single game. So I think Houston comes out victorious there. And then Boston, Houston, I've got to go with the Red Sox. The Red Sox go back to the World Series, and the Red Sox win the World Series. It's great to have Milwaukee there. Milwaukee will be happy to be there, but they're going to be a little disappointed at the end. Boston wins another one. They'll just have too many weapons, but it will be a good one. It will come down to the final game. It will go to a Game 7. That's what I would predict, that it would go to a Game 7 because if it is Boston, if it is Milwaukee, two teams, good lineups, good starting pitching, good bullpens. And I think that would be one that would go to Game 7.
Does Christian Yelich win the World Series MVP on the losing side? Does he play that well?
Gosh, man, if he keeps playing the way he is playing, that certainly could happen.
One thing you and I can agree on, AL East is going to win the World Series. I got the Yankees over the Dodgers.
There you go.
And this is one that if you're like, Ricky, how are you picking that one? Basically, I picked it from the beginning of the year. I'm going to stick with it. I said Yankees, Dodgers from the beginning. I'm going to stick with the Yankees over the Dodgers in the series.
Well, folks, there you have it. Ricky and I going through our MLB postseason predictions, talking a little bit about the games, going a little bit in depth on some. And we just really wanted to talk about this. We had, like I mentioned at the beginning, we had some commenters say we would really love you to do this, Twitter. And people on Twitter saying we'd really love to have you guys do this. We really enjoy baseball, and Ricky and I certainly do enjoy baseball. It has been it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good season, and get ready for some great MLB postseason baseball. Sometimes there's really nothing better than postseason baseball, so certainly enjoy it. To wrap things up here, make sure you go to patreon.com if you want to become a patron. $1 a month, that's all you would need to do. $10 a month gets you on a podcast to talk whatever you would like. Go to mostvaluablepodcast.com, get an MVP t-shirt in the store there, and then head to iTunes and give us that 5-star rating. Hope you enjoyed watching today. Hope you enjoy watching every day. For Ricky Widmer and Brandon Swanson saying so long and enjoy MLB postseason.